Hello everyone, my name is Vlad, and lately I've been working a lot with Decentraland Metaverse and been coding a lot for it. And I decided to share some of my knowledge, starting with the very basics and hopefully getting a bit more fun and complicated on a later date. So today we can start with the installation of the Decentraland and running your very first scene. So to install it is pretty straightforward. You go to docs, which is documentation for Decentraland, and it's pretty decent. So you need to go to this SDK 101 and just follow this page. But if you are hesitant somewhere, you can follow me. First of all, you need to have Node.js installed, version 14 or later. If you don't have it, go to the nodejs.org and install LTS, long time support version, the latest one you have. Currently it's 16.16. After that, you just need to run a couple of commands. You can copy them here and paste it into your command line. I'm using PowerShell terminal, so we can do it like this. First command, it doesn't matter where you install it from, because you're typing -g, which is mean global, and that means this package Decentraland is going to be installed, and that means that this package is going to be installed in a way it can be run from anywhere. So we just type it and press enter. It might take a while. I actually have it installed already, so what you see on the screen might be a little bit different from your output, but more or less the same. So just waiting. So here we have Decentraland installed, and now you can use the DCL command, and it shows you number of options. And first options is init, and you can see it here. Create your first scene. So that's what we are going to do. We need to go to an empty folder, otherwise it's gonna throw error. So your folder should be empty. I already created a new folder, init DCL. Let's say it's the name of this lesson, and you can check that this folder is empty. So I'm type DCL init, and it would ask me a couple of questions. So we want to create a scene, so we choose the first option by default, and cube spawner. It's a very basic scene example. Waiting for a project to be created, and here we have successful. Run DCL start to see your scene. Let's do this. DCL start. It's gonna compile and open in your browser. Let's do it full screen. Loading time might take a while depending on your hardware specs. So here's the simple scene. It's just one parcel, 16 by 16, and we have a cube in the center, which is rotating, and you can interact with it. You can click on it, and as soon as you click, it creates a new cube, and also it changes its dimensions. So yeah, that is your scene as an example. Let's go through the controls. If you are first time in the Decentraland, so press button C to open this page, and that is pretty much all the buttons that you need. So you can move around with your AWSD buttons. You can hide Decentraland UI by pressing U button, as well as you can hide avatar names. So you can switch between the first and third person view. It is button V, but it also works with scroll wheel. Also, let's go through the settings, and settings we have here. If you click on this avatar icon, or we can press button P. There is a few settings which might be very useful for you. If you have a hardware which is not powerful enough, you can will reduce how many scenes outside of the current parcel is being loaded, rendered, and that will be much easier on your computer. As well as in graphic, you have graphic presets here from low to ultra, and also you have this rendering scale. So if you go to the rendering scale to the minimum, everything be extremely blocky. And if we go to the maximum, it looks pretty decent. And of course, better the quality, the more difficult it's on your hardware. If you want to use your MetaMask account, what you can do is instead of running just DCL start, you can type DCL start --web3, and that will load your scene with connection to your MetaMask account. You should have your MetaMask extension installed here, and it will ask your credentials and it will load your scene with your current avatar. Okay, let's have a look at the files we have in our project. I'm using Visual Studio Code text editor, so I can use this command to open current project in a new window. I can trust. And here all our files. Let's start with the settings files first. First of all is package.json with all the dependency and all the description. But also we have this settings.json file. First of all, it has again the description of the project as well as some owner contacts. But what else you need to know about it? It has these parcels, and you can add parcels if you want to develop, let's say, a bigger scene. You can add whatever amount parcels you want, as well as the position of your player. Here we can set the spawn position. So, for example, if you're working with, let's say, 10 parcels, you might not want to spawn your player in the corner of the very first one. You want to spawn somewhere in the middle, as well as a camera target, and you can set it here. Also, another parameter you might want to look at is the required permissions, and that is, and sometimes you might want to add additional permissions for this scene. For example, if you want to force player to run some animation, so if you want to make them dance in certain area, for example, you need to add permission to be able to do that. Okay, let's go to the code itself. It's in a CRC game.ts. So let's get from the very top to bottom. This is a rotary system. Systems are built in the features of the DCL library. It lets you to make changes to the objects over the time. So in our case, we have these cubes which are rotating. Here we have engine, add system, and we add this rotary system into our engine. If you want something to be present in your scene, you need to add it to the engine, be it system or be it entity. Here we have a function which spawns the cube over the position, and that is how we do with our every entity. I usually have a similar function in my every project. I just modified this one a bit. So basically what you do, you create a new entity and we add different components to it. We add our position as a transform, so we can also have here a scale and rotation. And after that we add another component which is box shape. So here we add shape to our entity, and it's not just empty entity anymore. And as a last step, we add this entity into the engine, so it is being rendered into the scene. And we return the cube, so we can reuse this entity later, right here. As we want only one cube to be interactable, we add component outside the function, and we add onPointerDown component. So basically, which means that we can click on this component, and in this case, we change our transform.scale on Z and X axis on every click, as well as spawn a new cube on a random location. So that is basically it. That is the whole scene. I hope it was useful. It was the very basic, but I'm planning to do something more interesting and more fun in the future videos. So keep tuned, and I'm looking forward to see what you will create. Cheers!